He abandoned his wife in the hospital with 3 fragile newborn triplets, leaving her to face the impossible alone. Everyone thought they wouldn't survive. But against all odds, through hunger, pain, and sacrifice, those children grew into something no one expected. Like and subscribe, comment where you are watching from, as we dive into this emotional story. The hospital walls were painted a fading cream, the smell of antiseptic thick in the air. Rain drizzled softly outside, tapping against the dusty windows, as a young woman lay on a worn hospital bed, sweat dripping down her face. Her breathing came in ragged gasps, but her eyes glowed with determination. After hours of painful labor, the cries of not 1, not 2, but 3 tiny babies filled the ward. The nurses exchanged looks of surprise and excitement. "Triplets," one of them exclaimed, carefully wrapping the newborns in faded blue and pink blankets. The mother, weak but overjoyed, reached out trembling hands. Tears streamed down her face as she held them close. "My angels, you are my miracle," she whispered, pressing her lips against their soft cheeks. But in the corner of the room, her husband, Chike, stood frozen. His face was pale, his hands stuffed deep into his pockets. Instead of joy, his eyes carried something else, fear. Responsibility weighed heavy on him like an anchor pulling him down. 3 mouths to feed? 3 lives to care for? Already drowning in poverty, barely able to provide for himself, the thought of raising triplets sent him spiraling. The mother noticed his silence and called softly, "Chike, come and see them. Come see your children." But he didn't move. His jaw tightened, his eyes darted to the door. 3, he muttered under his breath. How will we survive this? We don't even have money for food. For rent. And now this. Her smile faltered. "Chike, they are blessings. Our blessings. God has given them to us." He shook his head, stepping back. "Blessings? Or curses? Do you know what it means to raise 3 children in this life? Eh? I can barely feed myself, and now you expect me to carry this burden." His words pierced her like knives. She clutched the babies tighter, her voice breaking. "Chike, please, don't say that. They are your blood." But the man had already made up his mind. His heart hardened, pride and fear clouding his judgment. Without another word, he turned and walked out of the ward. The slam of the door echoed louder than the cries of the babies. The nurses glanced at each other in shock, whispering under their breaths, but no one dared to stop him. The mother's tears flowed uncontrollably. She looked down at her newborns, their tiny fists curled tightly as if clinging to life. Her voice trembled as she spoke to them. "Your father may have abandoned us, but I will not. I will fight for you. I will bleed for you. You are mine, and I will never let you go." In that moment, something inside her shifted. The fragile, scared woman lying on the hospital bed became a lioness. Though abandoned, she refused to be defeated. As she rocked her babies to sleep, the rain outside grew heavier, pounding against the windows like a drum of destiny. The storm had begun, but so had their journey. That night, while the world slept, a mother made a silent vow. These children will rise. One day, they will stand so tall that the man who left them will live to regret it. And with that vow, the story began. Life after the hospital was nothing short of a battlefield. The young mother, Amora, left the ward with nothing but a tattered wrapper, a few faded baby clothes given by a kind nurse, and her 3 fragile children wrapped in blankets. Her body was still weak from childbirth, but her heart burned with determination. Her husband, Chike, had not returned. No visit. No word. He had vanished as though he had never existed. The first night back at their tiny one-room home was brutal. Rain leaked through the roof, dripping onto the cold cement floor. The babies cried from hunger, their little mouths searching for milk Amora's body could barely produce. She held them close, whispering lullabies with tears streaming down her face. "Sure, my angels, don't cry. Mama is here. Mama will never leave you." but deep down, she wondered how long she could survive like this. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Raising triplets alone was a war that demanded everything. Amora became mother, father, and provider. Each dawn, before the sun even rose, she strapped one baby on her back, carried the other two in an old wooden box padded with cloth, and set out for the streets. She sold roasted groundnuts, sachet water, and sometimes fruits on the roadside. The burning sun scorched her skin, the dust of passing cars choked her lungs, but she endured. Every coin she earned was stretched painfully thin, a little food, a little kerosene, a little soap. Sometimes, there wasn't even enough for food. On those nights, she drank water and gave the little she had to the babies, praying her body would endure. Neighbors pitied her, some mocked her. Aha, 3 at once? That man ran away for good reason. She will never survive this. Just wait, she will abandon them too. But Amora refused to bend. Each insult only fueled her resolve. The children grew, thin but spirited. Their cries turned into laughter, their tiny steps into running feet. Though they wore torn clothes and sometimes went to bed hungry, their mother filled them with something richer than food, hope. At night, she told them stories by the glow of a kerosene lamp. Stories of kings and queens who rose from nothing. Stories of warriors who refused to give up. Listen to me, my children, she said one night, her eyes blazing with fire. We may be poor today, but you must never let poverty enter your minds. You are not beggars. You are not orphans. You are destined for greatness. Daniel, the eldest, sat upright, his small fists clenched. Mama, I'll protect you and my brother and sister. Nobody will ever hurt us. David, the dreamer, whispered, Mama, one day I'll build you a house. A big one, with a shining roof. No more leaking. And little Diana, her voice soft but strong, pressed her tiny hand on her mother's cheek. Mama, I'll take care of you when you're old. I promise. Tears welled in Amora's eyes. She hugged them close, whispering into their hair. My treasures, one day the world will know your names. But the struggle never stopped. School fees became a constant battle. Some terms, the children were sent home because Amora couldn't pay on time. They wore uniforms stitched and patched until the original fabric could barely be seen. Other children mocked them, teachers scolded them, but the triplets endured. Every night, under the flickering light of a kerosene lamp, they studied with second-hand books Amora begged from neighbors and church members. Hunger gnawed at their bellies, but their minds burned with determination. And Amora never stopped working. She moved from selling groundnuts to washing clothes, from carrying firewood to cleaning houses. No work was too low, no task too degrading. All she cared about was keeping her children alive and in school. Her hands became rough, her back bent with labor, but her spirit remained unbroken. The neighbors who once mocked her now whispered in awe. That woman is strong, oh. Hey! If it were me, I would have died already. But Amora didn't care for praise. Her eyes were fixed on the future, a future where her children would stand tall, a future where her pain would be rewarded. One rainy evening, as the roof leaked and thunder shook their little shack, the children huddled together. Daniel clenched his jaw. Mama, I promise you, one day, we will leave this place. One day, we will be rich. And when that day comes, we will find Papa. He will see us. He will regret what he did. Amora's lips trembled. She wanted to dismiss the thought of their father, but deep inside, she knew destiny had already begun to shape them. That night, as the triplets drifted into sleep, Amora knelt by the window, rain soaking her knees as she whispered a prayer. God, I have nothing. No money. No husband. No strength left. But I have faith. Please, don't let my children's suffering be in vain. Make them a light in this world. The storm raged on, but within that small home, a spark burned brighter than ever, a spark that one day would grow into a fire powerful enough to change everything. Years passed, and the tiny children who once cried in the shadows of poverty began to blossom into young adults. The triplets, Daniel, David, and Diana, grew with one heart and one dream, bound by their mother's sacrifices and her endless words of encouragement. Daniel, the eldest by only a few minutes, became the shield of his family. At school, he was known for his courage. When bullies mocked his siblings for wearing torn uniforms or eating nothing during lunch break, Daniel stood tall and fought back. But beyond his fists, he carried a fire in his mind. He loved books about leadership, history, and strategy. His teachers often said, "That boy will become a leader one day." And Daniel believed it. David was different. Where Daniel was fiery, David was calm, always scribbling in a tattered notebook. He sketched designs of machines, tall buildings, and inventions he dreamed of creating. He had a natural gift for problem solving. When the neighbor's radio stopped working, David fixed it with scraps. When the community's borehole broke, he figured out how to patch it temporarily. Everyone laughed at his wild ideas. This poor boy wants to build airplanes? He hasn't even eaten rice this week, they mocked. But Amora never laughed. She kissed his head and said, "Dream, my son. Dream as high as the sky. One day, your dreams will feed nations." The only girl, Diana, grew into a striking young woman with a sharp mind and a voice that could move hearts. She excelled in school debates, speeches, and writing competitions. Her words carried weight. When she spoke, people listened. "This girl will be a lawyer or a leader," the teachers whispered. And deep down, Diana knew she was born to stand on great stages. Together, the triplets were unstoppable. Though hunger still gnawed at their stomachs and their clothes were patched and faded, they refused to bend. They studied harder than anyone else, borrowing books, sneaking into libraries, and teaching themselves from old newspapers and second-hand magazines. Their mother's words echoed like a drumbeat in their minds. Never let poverty enter your mind. You are destined for greatness. It all began in their late teens. One day, a nationwide competition was announced, a challenge for young innovators to present solutions to real-world problems. The prize? A scholarship, mentorship, and seed funding for their ideas. The triplets saw their chance. Daniel stepped forward with leadership and vision. David presented his brilliant designs for sustainable energy using cheap local materials. Diana crafted the perfect speech, delivering their project with such passion that the judges were stunned. The audience erupted. For the first time, the triplets stood in the spotlight, not as the children of a poor abandoned mother, but as visionaries with the power to change the world. They won. The scholarship sent them abroad, where opportunities they had only dreamed of became reality. Years of relentless hard work turned into results. Daniel built companies that created jobs for thousands, becoming a respected leader in business and philanthropy. David became an inventor and engineer, creating technology that attracted global attention. His designs for renewable energy transformed entire communities. Diana rose as a powerful voice in media and politics, advocating for justice and inspiring millions with her words. Together, they built an empire. They invested wisely, expanded globally, and before long, the once hungry triplets became billionaires. Like and subscribe for part 2, because what happens next will shock you, and comment part 2 in the comments.